60 cameras a lot. We've got great 360 cameras set up in this. You got lucky. You got the shotgun seat. Normally, shotgun has to get out in the mud and spot my corners in the woods, but we got cameras today, so you got lucky.
I don't mind doing that. I go off-roading, so I know how.
I got you. So the 360 camera is really handy on this thing. There's a few other camera shots I'll show you guys in a minute here. DSR, you guys are familiar with that, right? Downhill speed regulation. You guys know how that works? What system it's using?
ABS, ESP.
ABS. That's it. Simply ABS. It just works using the ABS system. Guys, I've lost sight of my colleague over the hill, the corner of the vehicle, but I can use the camera just to make sure I'm clear as I drop in here. Check this out. So my feet are flat on the floor. DSR is set at 4 miles an hour. I just set that because it's a nice steady walking pace, and yet we're not accelerating off madly into the woods as we go down. Use the cruise control stalk down here above your left knee to set the speed from 1 to 11 miles an hour when we're in low range for DSR. This is our wobble bridge. It shows off an independent suspension on all 4 corners. Aromatic is a big deal for us because it really takes up the shock on that. That is a brutal ride, and just about anything else that's stiffly sprung. Our aromatic suspension really allows us to get over that without beating us up too badly. So this entire course, both the off-road course and the obstacle course we'll do in a little bit, was originally designed and built back in the late 90s for that 163 chassis. The original ML320 that was built here with model year 98. I'm sorry, model 797. The course was designed for that 163 chassis. And keep in mind, that was a much shorter overall length vehicle, a shorter wheelbase, and a little narrower as well. So you're in a big 7-passenger premium SUV now doing the same thing. So you can kind of keep that in mind. It shows off how maneuverable and what a good vehicle this is for it. And I can maneuver through these tight sections using the camera system, mirrors, and the fact that we have a best-in-class turn radius as well. Turn radius is a real big deal when you're in a vehicle of this size. So a couple of things I'd like to point out. We've got electric steering. Appropriate amount of tension on it to give me ideas of what the front wheels are doing, but it's very light. I can use fingertip controls as we go through the woods here. Unlike, if you're familiar with maybe a old school off-roading type vehicle, fill in the blank Bronco or Jeep, something like that, that's got the hydraulic power steering. When you get in a situation where you might have to vary RPM, you'll get variable amounts of kickback with the steering wheel, the hydraulics, that sort of thing. You don't have any of that going on here. How many of our clients are going to buy a big 7-passenger premium SUV GL and say, hey, I want to take it off-road?
Zero.
Very, very few. But how many of our folks maybe have one of these they wouldn't hesitate to take to the the country club or whatever, and they reserve maybe an old SUV for their hunting club or for their ski chalet or something like that? Well, what if you can do all of the above with one vehicle, have Mercedes-Benz luxury and safety, which is a big deal, and yet have all the capability you needed? And the thing is, it's not a real expensive proposition. It's an $1,800 package. So it really gives you a lot of capability. A lot of our folks may or may not be able to utilize the additional benefits we have here, but what happens if they have that one time they got to get home from mega storm, whatever, or sandy snowstorm, whatever kind of deal, and they need the additional ground clearance to get over trees that are dropped or whatever to pick up the kiddies from school? Again, a lot of benefits, a lot of tools in the drawer that you might never need, but if you do, it's probably paid for itself that one time. So notice as we go through here, I use the mirrors a lot, but I'm also using the top-down view. I like this top-down view quite a bit. It gives me a lot of ideas of what's going on with the corners and how close we are.
Yeah, I've been noticing that.
So as we go through here, you might feel and hear a grumble every once in a while. That grumble is our ABS firing off. ABS is the core of a lot of our technologies and our systems. Our ESP stability program, obviously our braking, the ABS, but also things like traction control, our ETS system. That's a 4 ETS for this vehicle because it's all 4 wheels are being driven. So it's a 4 ETS, 4 channel. All those systems are using ABS when and it detects a little loss in grip, it'll apply brakes using that ABS and send the power over to another wheel that does have traction. So that's some of what you might hear with a rumbling. You'll hear a little bit more of it here in a minute when we get on the obstacle course. Our trail is starting to collapse in some of these corners here, so we have to be careful not to lean too far into these trees.
Yeah.
You might notice some marks on some of these trees. You'll notice that they don't coincide with our mirrors and our trim pieces. It's kind of amusing, but we've been out here. We'll do a recon run before you guys get here. And we find trim pieces and fresh tree marks, trim pieces and colors of vehicles we don't have. So we finally figured out that, you know, we have here at the plant, they make quite a few vehicles that are what we call crusher cars. If you guys look, when you come through gate 13 into the free trade zone, look on the right-hand side if you're coming onto the plant, and you'll see a whole line of vehicles out there that are about to be crushed. Those are non-VIN vehicles that, you know, the test mules or what have you. We think that some of the folks are actually bringing them up here and maybe doing a little last run with them through the woods and knocking pieces off. So I can't see that rock anymore. I know it's over there. I'm using the top-down view. Now, everybody's seen these tire tracks. Did you know we had tire tracks for the rear?
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that? I like to show service this. This is, if I can get it to do, we might be able to with 5 people in here. There it is. That little pop right there is the sway bar decoupling in a bind. When at maximum ride height, we're leaning a little bit and with a little bit of weight. It'll do that sometimes. I like to point out the service. It's the only time you can get it to repeat like that. But what happens is, in order to get the additional ride height, they had to create this little centered knuckle on the sway bars, because otherwise the sway bar would prevent the vehicle's wheels from drooping enough to get that extra ride height. So they created something that allows it to droop. And when it's in a bind like that, sometimes it'll pop. It only does that on maximum ride height. All right, this is our 70% slope. 70% slope is 35 degrees of angle. 100% slope, which is considered the maximum for wheeled or tracked vehicles, is 45 degrees of angle. So we're pretty close. It's a pretty steep little deal. You can watch as he drops in there. That right wheel's going to come up in the air a little bit as he teeters on 2 wheels there for a minute. And we'll get it right over the edge. Now it's we usually try to stop it's a little wet, and wet pine straw is one of the slickest substances I've ever found. I used to think wet leaves were slick. Pine straw is worse. Got a front camera set up I can use here in a minute as we go over the front there, just to help clear as we go. Since we do have a 3rd row occupant, I'll give you a pretty good view. You can look right out the sunroof to look forward on the horizon there. Alright, so again I can use this camera and make sure we're clear. So as we come over the top here, I'll just kind of teeter for just a second here on the 2 wheels. Drop in. There we go. Now this vehicle is 5,362 pounds. Plus 5 of us, we've got over 3 tons of meat machine here. I don't know if you noticed, but I took my foot off the brake as soon as we started sliding the top. And DSR at that point said, hey, you asked for 4 miles an hour. So we came down that steep slope in DSR at 4 miles an hour. That DSR comes in pretty handy. It's a neat little feature. I like to leave it on in the background. So a couple other camera angles we've got here real quick.